Hello and thanks for joining us for our late night newscast on Arirang TV. I'm Mark Broom. We are going to kick off the bulletin with a look at the latest from the 2016 Olympics in Rio, which have been going very well for Team Korea thus far. I'll be back with the rest of the day's news later, but for now let's turn things over to our Ian Shin for all the action from Brazil.
Great to have you with us. Here to bring you the latest updates from the Rio Olympics. I'm Ian Shin. We start with some fantastic news for Team Korea. The nation's archers have sealed a historic clean sweep in all four of the men's and women's team and individual events. Earning the fourth and final gold in the men's individual, Korea's Kubon-chan beat France's Jean-Charles Valadont 7-3 in Friday's final. Following in the footsteps of his female compatriot Chang Hae-jin, Koo is now a double gold medalist at these Rio Games, following his victory in the men's team event on Sunday. Since archery became four separate Olympic events in 1988, Korea is the only country to have dominated in all four categories. Team Korea also added a silver to its medal tally on Friday. Kim Jong-hyun finished second in the men's 50-meter rifle prone shooting competition with a score of 208.2. This is Kim's second Olympic medal as he won silver in the same event at the 2012 Olympics in London. And this is also the second shooting medal for Team Korea in Rio, following Kim Jong-un's golden victory earlier this week. While Korea has cemented its position as the #1 nation in archery, Team USA is the one to beat when it comes to swimming, be it men's or women's. Following in the footsteps of the most decorated Olympian of all time, Michael Phelps, the youngest member of the U.S. Olympic swimming team, Katie Ledecky, claimed her fourth gold of the Rio Games in the 800-meter freestyle on Friday. And if that's not impressive enough, get this. She also smashed her previous world record in the process with a new time of 8 minutes 4.79 seconds. She currently holds the world's best times in 400, 800, and 1500-meter freestyle events. The fresh-faced teenager who keeps breaking her own records says that on top of pushing herself further, she is having fun, proving this is only the beginning of her legacy. Now, from one young Olympic star to a veteran cycling legend from Great Britain who has written himself into the history books. Bradley Wiggins has become Team GB's most decorated Olympian ever, claiming his fifth Olympic gold on Friday in the men's team pursuit. Wiggins, along with his teammates Ed Clancy, Stephen Berg, and Owain Do, set a new world record as they beat Australia in a nail-biting race. With 5 golds, 1 silver, and 2 bronze, the 36-year-old now has more Olympic medals than anyone in his home nation. And finally, another huge moment on day 7. With 2 silver and 2 bronze medals, Singapore has been longing for its first Olympic gold since 1948, the year it first sent athletes to the Olympics. And the wait finally came to an end on Friday. 21-year-old Joseph Schooling won gold in the men's 100-meter butterfly with an Olympic record time of 50.39 seconds. And what made Schooling's moment even more remarkable was the man who had to stand below him on the podium, Michael Phelps. In a 3-way tie with swimmers from South Africa and Hungary, the world's most decorated Olympian, who was going for his 23rd gold, had to settle for silver. That's a wrap of Friday's action, and now let's take a look at some of the events to watch out for on Saturday.
Now, in the rest of the day's news, Korea reportedly hopes significant progress will be made in regards to a landmark agreement on Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women before Korea's National Liberation Day on Monday. The Japanese daily Asahi Shimbun reported Saturday that National Liberation Day is when the Korean president makes a speech to highlight the country's history, including the sex slavery issue. and that an agreement before then could positively change the direction of President Park Geun-hye's speech. This comes a day after the foreign ministers of the two countries talked on the phone to discuss follow-up measures to the so-called Comfort Women deal. This includes talks on a $10 million fund for a foundation for the victims, with the Japanese government saying it will swiftly provide the agreed amount once domestic procedures are completed. Korea marks National Liberation Day every August 15th, the day in 1945 when it was liberated from Japan's brutal 35-year colonial rule. The Japanese government has lodged a complaint against a planned visit by Korean lawmakers to the Korea-controlled Dokdo islets. The Korean embassy in Japan says it received a phone call from Japan's foreign ministry saying the visit is highly regretful and Tokyo cannot accept it. The Korean embassy responded by saying the islets are Korean territory and it cannot accept Japan's false claims. Korea's foreign ministry received similar complaints from the Japanese embassy in Seoul, but it also reiterated that Dokdo is Korean territory by geography and international law, and it cannot accept Japan's claims and complaints. Lawmakers from Korea's ruling and opposition parties are scheduled to make a visit to Dokdo on Monday to mark Korea's National Liberation Day. The International Monetary Fund expects the Korean economy to expand less than 3% this year due to various structural restraints. However, it welcomes recent fiscal measures and monetary easing aimed at tackling the challenges hindering the nation's growth. Kim Min-ji has the details.
The Korean economy faces a number of structural headwinds going forward. In its annual assessment of Asia's fourth-largest economy, the IMF says it expects Korea to grow 2.7% this year. The agency says there are several structural constraints on the country, including a rapidly aging population, a heavy reliance on exports, and lagging productivity. However, the growth outlook is unchanged from its previous projection, and the IMF also maintained its forecast for next year at 3%. The IMF holds bilateral discussions with member countries every year to review their economic developments and fiscal policies. On that note, the agency says it supports the Korean government's push for corporate restructuring in order to bolster the country's growth potential. Korea's shipbuilding industry has been at the center of the restructuring drive amid an industry-wide slump and a drastic drop in orders. Major shipbuilders are engaging in aggressive downsizing and tens of thousands of workers are expected to lose their jobs this year. The government announced a stimulus package which includes a $10 billion budget supplement in order to cushion the negative impact and support job creation. The Bank of Korea also cut its key rate to a record low of 1.25% in June to prop up the economy. Down the line, the IMF says a carefully targeted expansion of social expenditure could help reduce inequality in Korea, as well as boost consumption and bolster productivity. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's stock market grew the 13th fastest among the financial markets of G20 member nations in the first half of this year. Korea Exchange says the benchmark KOSPI rose 4% between January 1st and June 30th. That's around 1 percentage point lower than the G20 average. Brazil's stock market grew the most at more than 13%, followed by Germany's DAX at 11%. The biggest rises in Asia were Indonesia and Japan's Nikkei at 8 and 7.4% respectively. The only G20 member nation which saw its market drop was Saudi Arabia. It fell 2.7%. Now, biomimetics is the imitation of elements and principles of nature for the purpose of solving complex human problems. And lately, the use has been widened to include everything from daily supplies to state-of-the-art wearable devices. Kim Jong-hyun has more.
This is a food tray used by astronauts. With the help of an adhesive pad that copy traits from a burdock fiber, the tray and all the items on it are able to stay still even in a state of weightlessness. Scientists also developed a smart adhesive pad that has the shape of the suckers of an octopus. The pad contracts when the temperature surpasses 32 degrees Celsius, making it possible to stick to another object. There are several possible uses, including as a medical adhesive and attaching wearable devices on robots. The back of the leatherback turtle is also being tested to see if it could be used to improve the design of submarines or other underwater vehicles. The way bees communicate by giving each other signals is also being used to develop software.
Technology has evolved up to the extent of imitating the lifestyle and complex behaviors of animals and plants from simply copying their prevalent traits.
Innovative ideas derived from nature are now being used in advanced technologies. Biomimetic innovations are expected to contribute to overcoming the current limitations of mankind. Kim Jong-hyun, Arirang News.
Now, Korea is still in the grips of an intense heat wave with daytime highs around the country ranging in the mid to high 30s for yet another day on Saturday, with heat wave warnings and advisories in place around the country. The high on Saturday topped out at 39.4 degrees Celsius in Gyeongju in Korea's southeast. Seoul wilted under a daytime high of around 34 degrees Celsius, although the so-called urban heat island effect can make it feel even hotter than that. You can see everyone covering up from the heat of the afternoon sun there. Now, the scorching conditions are forecast to last through the rest of the three-day holiday weekend, but temperatures will be slightly cooler than yesterday, with the emphasis there on slightly. If you're watching us in Korea, be sure to stay hydrated and keep out of the midday and afternoon sun as well, if possible, as the UV index is also very high during the day. Well, those are stories we're following at this hour. You can find all our news and Arirang TV programs on the website, arirang.com. Have a great rest of the weekend. Until next time, goodbye.